The transport ship hummed as it approached the massive Valerian palace vessel. Taman stood at the viewing port watching the crystalline structure grow larger against the backdrop of stars. He had seen many alien ships in his 5 years of service, but nothing quite like this. The palace looked like a frozen waterfall suspended in space, glowing with soft blue light. He adjusted his uniform one last time. The gray and black fabric bore the insignia of the Human Defense Corps on his shoulder. On his other shoulder was a new patch, the silver spiral of the Valerian Empire. He was no longer just a soldier. Today, he became a royal guard. The docking process was smooth. Taman gathered his single travel case and walked down the ramp into a world of beauty he had never imagined. The corridor walls seemed alive with shifting patterns of light. Valerian attendants moved past him without a glance. Their skin had a faint luminescence, and their eyes were larger than human eyes, colored in shades of violet and silver. A tall Valerian in flowing robes approached. "You are the human guard?" "Yes, sir." "Taman of Earth, follow me. The Queen will see you now." Taman's heart beat faster, but his face remained calm. He had been trained for this. Show no fear, show no weakness. Represent humanity with dignity. They walked through corridors that seemed to go on forever. Other Valerians stopped to stare at him. Some whispered to each other. Taman kept his eyes forward and his pace steady. He knew what they thought of humans: primitive, violent, useful only for fighting. The throne room was enormous. The ceiling stretched so high that Taman couldn't see where it ended. At the far end of the room, on a throne that seemed carved from a single massive crystal, sat Queen Thessa. She was watching him as he approached. Her presence filled the room like a physical weight. Taman had been warned about Valerian telepaths. They could read surface thoughts, sense emotions, even project their own feelings into your mind. He cleared his thoughts and focused on his breathing. "Kneel," the attendant whispered. Taman knelt, his right fist over his heart in the human military salute. "Rise, human." The Queen's voice was like music, but there was ice beneath it. Taman stood and met her gaze. Her eyes were the color of deep space, almost black with flecks of silver. "You are Taman. 28 years old, decorated soldier, served in the border wars. 13 confirmed hostile encounters. No disciplinary marks on your record." She tilted her head slightly. "Impressive for your species." "Thank you, Your Majesty." It was not a compliment. She leaned forward slightly. "Tell me, Taman of Earth, why does my daughter need a guard at all? We Valerians are psychically powerful. We can sense danger before it arrives. We can defend ourselves with our minds alone. What can a human possibly offer that we cannot provide ourselves?" The question hung in the air. Taman had been expecting something like this. "I offer a different perspective, Your Majesty. I cannot read minds. I cannot move objects with thought. But I can see patterns that telepaths might miss. I can stand between danger and your daughter with my body when mental powers are not enough. And I will do so without hesitation." The Queen studied him for a long moment. Without hesitation. How noble. Her tone suggested she found nothing noble about it at all. "And if I order you to die for her?" "Then I die. Just like that?" "Just like that, Your Majesty." She made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sigh. "Humans, so eager to throw away your short lives. Very well. You will guard my daughter, Princess Nala. She is young and curious about the lesser species. Perhaps having you around will satisfy that curiosity, and she will grow out of it." Lesser species. The word stung, but Taman's expression didn't change. "You will maintain a respectful distance at all times. You will speak only when spoken to. You will not touch her unless defending her from immediate danger. You will remember that you are here as a courtesy to the Human Defense Corps, not because we actually need you. Do you understand?" "Yes, Your Majesty." "Good, now go. My daughter is in the garden hall. Try not to embarrass your species further." The attendant led Taman out quickly. Once they were in the corridor, the Valerian spoke quietly. "The Queen is protective and suspicious of outsiders." "I understand. The princess, though, she is different. Be patient with her." They arrived at a massive doorway that opened onto an indoor garden. Real trees grew inside the ship, reaching toward artificial sunlight. A small stream ran through the center of the space. It was beautiful and impossible. Standing beside the stream was Princess Nala. She was younger than Taman had expected, perhaps 20 in Earth years. Her hair was long and silver, flowing down her back like liquid metal. Her skin had the same soft glow as all Valerians, but somehow brighter. She wore a simple white dress that seemed to float around her. She was staring at the water and didn't turn when Taman approached. "Princess Nala," the attendant said, "your new guard has arrived." She glanced over her shoulder briefly, her violet eyes sweeping across Taman with complete disinterest. "Oh, the human. Yes, Your Highness. This is... I don't care what his name is." She turned back to the water. "Stand over there somewhere. And be quiet. I'm thinking." The attendant gave Taman an apologetic look and left quickly. Taman moved to a position 10 feet behind the princess and slightly to her right. He stood at ease, hands clasped behind his back, and waited. An hour passed, then 2. The princess moved occasionally, walking along the stream or sitting on a bench to read from a holographic display. She never looked at him again, never spoke to him. It was as if he didn't exist. This was fine. Taman had learned patience long ago. He watched the garden, memorized the exits, noted the patterns of attendants passing by. He observed how the princess moved, where she liked to stand, how often she checked the doorways. As the 4th hour approached, another Valerian entered the garden. This one was male, older, wearing elaborate robes marked with gold symbols. He bowed to the princess. "Your Highness, your mother requests your presence at dinner. Tell her I'll come soon." She specified immediately, "Princess." Nala sighed dramatically. "Fine." She stood and walked toward the door, then paused and looked back at Taman as if suddenly remembering he existed. "You. Stay here or follow me or whatever it is you do." "I don't care." She left without waiting for a response. Taman followed at the proper distance, his mind already working. This was going to be a long assignment. The queen despised him. The princess ignored him. The rest of the Valerians looked at him like an amusing pet. But he had a job to do. He had made a promise when he took this assignment. He would keep Princess Nala safe whether she wanted his protection or not. Whether she ever acknowledged his existence or not. That was what humans did. They kept their promises, even when no one believed they would. Part 2. The Warrior's Shadow. 3 weeks passed like slow water dripping from stone. Taman followed Princess Nala through her daily routine with the silent presence of a shadow. She woke late each morning. She took long meals with her attendants. She studied languages and history with her tutors. She walked in the gardens. She attended evening social gatherings with other young Valerian nobles. And through it all, she never spoke to him. Not once. The other guards found this amusing. The Valerian psychic guards who rotated through duty would exchange knowing looks. One morning, one of them approached Taman. "Does she even know your name yet, human?" "I don't believe so. How does it feel?" "Being invisible?" "I'm not here to be seen. I'm here to keep her safe." The guard laughed and walked away. But Taman didn't mind. He wasn't invisible. He was observant. He had learned the layout of the entire palace ship. He knew which corridors were busiest at which times. He had identified 3 separate security weaknesses in the princess's quarters. He had memorized the faces and patterns of everyone who came near her regularly. And he had noticed Advisor Krell. The man appeared often, always with reasons that seemed legitimate. Discussing policy with the princess, delivering messages from the queen, offering guidance on diplomatic matters. But something about him felt wrong to Taman. The way Krell's eyes lingered on the princess. The way he positioned himself between her and the exits. Small things that maybe meant nothing, or maybe meant everything. On the 23rd day, everything changed. The princess attended a diplomatic reception in one of the grand halls. Representatives from a dozen species had gathered to celebrate some treaty Taman didn't fully understand. He stood against the wall watching. The princess moved through the crowd with practiced grace. She smiled and spoke to various dignitaries. She accepted compliments with modest nods. She was good at this, Taman realized. Better than she probably knew. An ambassador from the Torvin collective approached her. The Torvins were large creatures, nearly 7 feet tall with gray skin and multiple arms. This one wore decorative armor that marked him as important. "Princess Nala," the Torvin said, his voice deep and rumbling. "You grow more beautiful each time I see you. You are too kind, Ambassador." "Not kind. Truthful." He moved closer, and Taman's attention sharpened. "I have been speaking with your mother about strengthening ties between our peoples." "That sounds wonderful." "Yes. Through marriage, perhaps. Another step closer. The Torvin was now well inside her personal space. You would be treated as a goddess among my people. Nala's smile didn't change, but Taman saw the subtle shift in her posture. The slight backward lean, the tension in her shoulders. She was uncomfortable but trained to hide it. I'm flattered, Ambassador, but I'm not currently considering marriage proposals. Your mother seemed quite interested in the idea. The Torvin reached out with one of his 4 hands. Perhaps we could discuss it somewhere more private? His hand moved toward her arm. Taman crossed the distance between them in 3 seconds. He didn't run. He didn't rush. He simply appeared between the princess and the ambassador, with the smooth efficiency of someone who had done this 1,000 times before. Excuse me, Ambassador. Taman's voice was polite but firm. The princess has another appointment. We must go, the Torvin's eyes narrowed. Who are you to interrupt? Her guard, sir. A human guard? The ambassador laughed. Step aside, primitive. I apologize, but I cannot do that. The tension in the room shifted. Other diplomats had noticed the exchange. The Valerian psychic guards were moving closer, finally sensing the problem. The Torvin took a step toward Taman, using his height to intimidate. I said step aside. Taman didn't move. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten. He simply stood there, positioned so that any attempt to reach the princess would have to go through him first. The princess has indicated she is not interested in further conversation, Ambassador. Perhaps we can arrange a proper diplomatic meeting at a later time through official channels. The Torvin stared down at Taman, and for a moment, violence hung in the air like a held breath. Then the ambassador seemed to realize where he was, who was watching, what it would mean if he attacked a royal guard at a diplomatic function. He stepped back. Of course, through official channels. He bowed stiffly to the princess. Another time then. He walked away and the tension dissolved. The other diplomats returned to their conversations. The psychic guards retreated back to their positions, though they watched Taman with new interest. Taman turned to Princess Nala. Are you all right, Your Highness? She was staring at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Surprise? Gratitude? Something else? Yes, I'm fine. She looked at where the ambassador had disappeared into the crowd. He was very insistent. Yes, Your Highness. Would you like to remain at the reception? Or would you prefer to leave? I think I'd like to leave. Of course. Taman escorted her out of the hall. They walked in silence through the corridors back toward her quarters. At the door she paused. You didn't have to do that. Yes, Your Highness. I did. The psychic guards would have handled it. They were 20 feet away. He would have touched you before they arrived. She looked at him more closely now, really seeing him for perhaps the first time. You were watching. The whole time. Always, Your Highness. When why? It's my job. No, she shook her head. All the other guards stand and watch, but they're not really paying attention. They rely on their telepathy to warn them of danger. But you were reading his body language. You saw what he was going to do before he did it. Taman said nothing. She was right, but he didn't know if she wanted an explanation or was simply making an observation. Thank you, she said quietly. You're welcome, Your Highness. She went inside and Taman took his position outside her door for the night watch. But something had shifted. The invisible wall between them had developed a crack. 2 nights later, at nearly midnight, the door to her quarters opened. Princess Nala stood there in a simple sleeping robe, looking uncertain. You're still out here? Yes, Your Highness. Do you ever sleep? I sleep during my off shifts. When are those? 6 hours every day, Your Highness. When the other guards are on duty. She was quiet for a moment. So when I'm in my quarters at night, you're out here? Yes, Your Highness. All night? Yes, Your Highness. That seems exhausting. It's necessary. She looked like she wanted to say something else, but instead she just nodded slowly. Good night, then. Good night, Your Highness. The door closed, but Taman felt something had changed again. She was starting to notice. Starting to understand that he wasn't just standing in the hallway because he was ordered to. He was there because he chose to be. Because someone needed to be. Because that's what protection meant. The next morning, when she emerged from her quarters, she looked at him and spoke. What's your name? Taman, Your Highness, Taman. She said it carefully as if testing the word. I should have asked before. It's not necessary, Your Highness, and maybe not. But I'm asking now. She walked away and he followed. But now there was something different in the air between them, something that felt almost like recognition, like maybe, just maybe, he was becoming more than invisible. Part 3. The question: the diplomatic mission to Station Kalos required 3 days of travel through neutral space. Princess Nala had been chosen to represent the Valerian Empire at trade negotiations. Taman and 2 other human guards accompanied her, along with the usual contingent of Valerian psychic guards. The station was massive, a spinning wheel of metal and light that housed representatives from hundreds of species. Taman had been here once before, years ago, during the border wars. It looked different now, cleaner, more hopeful. Princess Nala seemed excited about the mission. It was her first time leading negotiations without her mother present. She reviewed documents during the entire journey, asking questions of her advisors, preparing for every possible scenario. Taman noticed she had started including him in her awareness, not speaking to him directly but acknowledging his presence. When she moved to a new room, she would glance back to make sure he was there. When she reviewed security arrangements, she would ask him for his assessment. Small changes, but meaningful. On the second day at the station, while the princess attended a formal dinner, Taman took a break in the human quarters. He found Ambassador Yuna there reviewing her own documents. "Taman," she greeted him warmly. "How are you finding life as a royal guard?" "Different from combat duty, Ambassador," Yuna laughed. She was in her 50s, with gray streaking through her black hair and eyes that had seen too much. She had been one of the first humans to join the diplomatic corps after the wars ended. "I imagine so. How is the princess treating you?" "Better than I expected." "That's good to hear. The Valerians are slowly coming around to us." She poured tea and offered him a cup. "They're starting to see we're not just violent primitives. Some of them, maybe. It's a process. Give them time." She sipped her tea thoughtfully. "The princess asked to meet with me tomorrow. Did you know that?" "No, Ambassador. She wants to learn about Earth, about human culture." "I think you've made quite an impression." Taman felt uncomfortable with the idea. "I haven't done anything special. You've done your job." "Apparently that's more than they expected from us." Yuna set down her cup. "Let me tell you something about humans, Taman. Something the princess needs to understand. We survived because we learned to protect each other. Every human knows what it means to stand guard. We've been doing it since we lived in caves. We watched for predators while others slept. We stood between our families and danger. It's in our bones. The Valerians have their own ways of protecting each other. Yes, with telepathy and mental powers. But what happens when those fail? What happens when technology breaks down? When psychic abilities are blocked?" She looked at him seriously. "Then they need someone who will stand their ground with nothing but their body and their will. That's us. That's humanity." The next day, Princess Nala met with Ambassador Yuna in a private conference room. Taman stood outside the door, but he could hear their voices through the thin walls. "Tell me about Earth," the princess said. "What would you like to know?" "Everything. I've read reports, but they're all about wars and conflicts. What was it like before? What is it like now?" Yuna spoke for over an hour. She told stories about cities that touched the clouds, about oceans that covered most of the planet, about music and art and literature, about families and festivals and food. "And the wars?" the princess asked eventually. "The reports say humans fought each other for thousands of years." "Yes, we did. Why?" "Many reasons: resources, territory, ideas, fear." Yuna paused. "But we learned, eventually. The border wars taught us that we needed to stand together or we would fall separately. So we chose to stand together. My people believe humans are naturally violent. We can be, but we can also be incredibly gentle, protective, loyal." Yuna's voice softened. "Every species has the capacity for violence, Princess. The question is what else they have the capacity for. What they choose to be when violence isn't necessary." When the meeting ended and the princess emerged, she looked thoughtful. She walked slowly back to her quarters and Taman followed. At the door, she turned to him. "Ambassador Yuna told me about the memorial on Earth, the one for the fallen soldiers." "Yes, Your Highness. She said there are billions of names, every person who died in every war." "Yes, Your Highness, and I can't even imagine. It's important to remember. Do you have names on that memorial?" Taman hesitated. "Yes, Your Highness. My parents, my younger sister. They were in Seoul when the city was destroyed." Her eyes widened. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. It's all right. It was a long time ago. Is that why you became a soldier? Partly. I wanted to protect others from feeling what I felt. I wanted to make sure no one else would stand alone when danger came. She studied his face for a long moment. You said you would die for me if ordered. Back when you met my mother. Yes, Your Highness. But you wouldn't just be following orders, would you? You would do it because you believe it's right. I would do it because someone needs to stand guard, Your Highness. And right now that someone is me. She went inside without another word, but Taman felt something had shifted again. She was beginning to understand what it meant to have a human guardian. Not just a guard. A guardian. That evening, Queen Thessa arrived at the station unexpectedly. She met with the princess privately, and Taman waited outside. The conversation was muffled, but he could hear the queen's voice rising occasionally. When the door opened, the queen emerged first. She looked at Taman with an expression that might have been concern or anger. He couldn't tell. Walk with me, human. It wasn't a request. Taman followed her down the corridor to an observation deck that looked out onto the stars. My daughter has become attached to you, the queen said without preamble. I serve the princess to the best of my ability. Your Majesty. That's not what I asked. She turned to face him. She speaks about you. She asks about humans. She defends your species in conversations with her peers. The queen's eyes were hard. This concerns me. I apologize if I've caused any problems, Your Majesty. You haven't caused problems. That's what worries me. She stepped closer. You're making her question things she has always accepted. You're making her see humanity differently. Do you understand what that means? No, Your Majesty. It means she's changing, growing, and I don't know if I can protect her from what that change might bring. The queen looked back out at the stars. I asked her today who guards her. Do you know what she said? Taman stayed silent. She said, my warrior. Not my guard or my protection detail. My warrior. The queen's voice was quiet. As if you belong to her. As if she trusts you more than her own people. I am honored by her trust, Your Majesty. Are you? Or are you filling her head with human ideas about honor and sacrifice? I haven't told her anything, Your Majesty. I simply do my job. Yes, that's exactly the problem. The queen looked at him one more time. You're exactly what you appear to be. Loyal, dedicated, willing to die for her without hesitation. My daughter has never met anyone like that before. Be careful, Taman. She may come to rely on you more than is wise. The queen left and Taman stood alone on the observation deck. He understood her concern. In her position, he might feel the same way. A powerful young princess forming a bond with a human guard. It was unusual, unexpected, maybe even dangerous from a political perspective. But he couldn't change who he was. He couldn't pretend to be less dedicated or less willing to sacrifice. That would be a betrayal of everything he believed. So he would continue to do his job, continue to stand guard, continue to be exactly what the princess needed him to be, even if it made the queen nervous, even if it changed everything. Part 4. The conspiracy had started with a small inconsistency. A maintenance worker who appeared 3 times in 1 week near the princess's quarters when maintenance schedules showed no work orders. A shipment of supplies that arrived unsealed when protocol demanded sealed containers. A guard rotation that changed without proper authorization. Taman noticed all of it. He kept mental notes, watching patterns emerge like constellations appearing in the night sky. The more he watched, the more he saw. And at the center of everything was Advisor Krell. The advisor had become more present in recent weeks. He attended more meetings with the princess. He offered more guidance. He stood closer during conversations. And every time Taman saw him, something felt wrong. Not anything he could explain. Just a feeling in his gut that had kept him alive through 13 combat encounters. On a Tuesday morning, Taman was reviewing security footage from the previous night. The Valerian guards never bothered with this task. They relied on their telepathy to sense threats. But Taman had learned that cameras saw things minds missed. He found something strange. A section of footage near the royal quarters had been edited. Someone had removed 3 minutes of recording. The edit was good, professional even, but Taman had been trained to spot manipulations. He dug deeper, requesting older footage. More gaps, more edits, all of them around times when Advisor Krell had been in the area. That night, Taman followed his instincts. When his shift ended and another human guard named Minho took over, Taman didn't go to his quarters. Instead, he moved through the ship's service corridors, following a route he had memorized weeks ago. He reached a storage bay near the engineering section. The door was locked, but Taman had learned how to bypass Valerian security systems. Inside, he found crates marked as diplomatic supplies. They were supposed to contain documents and gifts for an upcoming ceremony. He opened one crate. Inside were weapons. Not energy weapons like the Valerians used, physical weapons, blades and projectile weapons. The kind that would work even if power was cut or psychic dampening fields were activated. Taman's blood ran cold. He knew what this meant. Someone was planning an attack. An attack designed to neutralize the Valerians' greatest advantages. He carefully closed the crate and left the storage bay. His mind raced through possibilities. Who could he tell? The Valerian guards wouldn't believe him. They trusted their telepathy above all else, and they wouldn't take a human's word seriously. He went to his commanding officer, Commander Jiho, who oversaw all human guards in the Valerian Empire. "Sir, I need to report a security threat." Jiho looked up from his desk. He was a stern man in his 50s with scars across his face from the border wars. "What kind of threat?" Taman explained everything. The weapons, the edited footage, the patterns around Advisor Krell. Jiho listened carefully, then sighed. "Taman, do you have proof that Advisor Krell is involved?" "No direct proof, sir. But the circumstantial evidence won't be enough. The Valerians will see this as us meddling in their internal politics." Jiho leaned back in his chair. "You're probably right that something is being planned. But we can't act on it without solid proof, and we definitely can't accuse a high-ranking Valerian official without evidence. But sir, the ceremony is in 3 days. If you're right, then we need to be smart about this. Go to the Valerian security chief. Present what you've found. Let them investigate." Taman went to the security chief, a tall Valerian named Theron. He explained what he had discovered. Theron listened with growing impatience. "You're suggesting Advisor Krell is planning something?" "I'm suggesting someone is, sir. And all the evidence points toward the advisor." "Evidence?" Theron's voice was cold. "You have suspicious feelings and some weapons in a storage bay. Do you know how many storage bays contain weapons? We're a military vessel, human." "But sir, these weapons are designed to work during psychic dampening." "Enough." Theron stood. "I will investigate your claims. But I'm warning you now. If this is an attempt to embarrass a Valerian official, there will be consequences. We tolerate humans here as a courtesy. Don't abuse that courtesy." Taman left feeling frustrated. He had tried to follow the proper channels. But no one would listen. That night he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the ceremony. The Queen and Princess would be there. Hundreds of important officials. If someone attacked during that event, he needed to warn the princess. Even if no one else would listen, she might. The next morning, he waited until the princess was alone in the garden hall. He approached and bowed. "Your Highness, I need to speak with you about a security concern." She looked up from her reading. "A security concern?" "Yes, Your Highness. I've discovered evidence of a possible attack planned for the ceremony tomorrow." Her expression shifted to concern. "What kind of attack?" Taman explained everything. She listened carefully and he felt hope rising. Maybe she would believe him. Maybe she could convince her mother to increase security or postpone the ceremony. But before she could respond, Advisor Krell entered the garden hall. "Princess Nala, I've been looking for you." He saw Taman and frowned. "Is this guard bothering you?" "No, he's been spreading rumors, Your Highness." Krell moved closer, his eyes fixed on Taman. "Dangerous rumors about attacks and conspiracies. I'm afraid he's become unstable." "That's not true," Taman said firmly. "I found evidence." "Evidence?" Krell laughed. "You found nothing but your own paranoid delusions. This is what happens when we trust humans with important duties. They see threats everywhere because violence is all they understand." Princess Nala looked between them, confused. Taman wouldn't lie about something like this, wouldn't he? Krell stepped closer to her and Taman saw something in his eyes. Something dark. "Your Highness, I'm afraid this human has become fixated on you. Obsessed even. He's invented this conspiracy to make himself seem important to you, to make you dependent on him." Taman felt Krell's telepathy brushing against the princess's mind. He was manipulating her emotions, planting doubt and suspicion. "That's not true," Taman said desperately. "Your Highness, you know me." I don't know." The princess's voice was uncertain now, influenced by Krell's psychic manipulation. "Maybe I don't know you as well as I thought." Krell smiled. "I'll inform the Queen about this incident. I'm sure she'll want this guard removed from service immediately." Within an hour, Taman was summoned before Queen Thessa. Advisor Krell stood beside her throne. Several Valerian officials were present along with Commander Jiho. "Taman," the Queen said coldly, "you stand accused of spreading false information and attempting to manipulate my daughter. How do you answer these charges?" "Your Majesty, I found evidence of a planned attack. I reported it through proper channels. You made accusations against one of my most trusted advisors without proof. I had evidence. You had suspicions." The Queen's eyes were hard. "And when those suspicions were dismissed by proper authorities, you went to my daughter and tried to frighten her. This is unacceptable. Your Majesty, if you would just investigate the storage bay." "The storage bay has been inspected," Krell said smoothly. "There's nothing there but standard diplomatic supplies. Whatever you thought you saw was clearly a mistake. They had moved the weapons." "Of course they had." Taman felt everything slipping away. "Your Majesty, please. The ceremony tomorrow will proceed as planned, and you will not be there." Queen Thessa stood. "Taman, you are hereby relieved of duty. You will be escorted to a shuttle and returned to Earth immediately." "Your Majesty, this audience is over." Commander Jiho escorted Taman out of the throne room. In the corridor, the commander spoke quietly. "I believe you, Taman, but there's nothing I can do. You've been ordered off the ship. Sir, the attack is going to happen." "I know it. I know you think that, and maybe you're right." Jiho stopped walking and looked at him seriously. "But if you interfere now, you'll be arrested, possibly executed. You'll be branded a traitor to both species. Is that what you want?" "I want the princess to be safe." "Then get on the shuttle. Go home, forget about this." They reached the shuttle bay. A small transport was waiting to take Taman back to human space. He could see the pilot doing pre-flight checks. Commander Jiho held out his hand. "I'm sorry, Taman. You were a good soldier." Taman shook his hand. Then he turned and looked back down the corridor toward the heart of the ship, toward where Princess Nala was preparing for tomorrow's ceremony, toward danger that no one else could see. He thought about the memorial on Earth, all those names, all those people who had died because someone wasn't there to protect them. He thought about his family, how he hadn't been there when they needed him. He thought about what it meant to stand guard. Then he looked at Commander Jiho and said, "I made a promise, sir. She'll be safe. Taman, don't." But Taman was already running. Part 5. The ceremony of blood. Taman moved through the service corridors like a ghost. He had memorized every maintenance tunnel and service shaft during his time aboard the ship. Now that knowledge kept him hidden from the security systems looking for him. He had no illusions about what he was doing. He was disobeying direct orders. He would be branded a criminal. If he survived this, he would spend years in prison. But none of that mattered. The princess was in danger, and he was the only one who could see it. The Grand Celestial Hall was the largest space on the palace ship. It could hold 5,000 people comfortably. For tonight's ceremony, it would be completely filled. The Queen would formally announce Princess Nala as her heir. Representatives from across the Empire would witness the event, and someone was going to attack. Taman found a maintenance access point high in the ceiling of the hall. He arrived early, hours before the ceremony would begin. From his hidden position, he watched as workers prepared the space. They arranged seating. They tested holographic displays. They set up the ceremonial platform where the Queen and Princess would stand. He watched Advisor Krell walk through the hall with a security team, supposedly checking that everything was ready. But Taman saw how Krell's eyes moved across the space, how he paused at certain locations, how he gave subtle signals to specific guards. Those guards weren't Valerian. They were from different species, hired mercenaries mixed in with the regular security. Taman recognized the signs now, the way they stood, the way they watched exits. These were killers pretending to be guards. The ceremony began at sunset. The hall filled with hundreds of beings dressed in their finest clothing. The lights dimmed and music played through hidden speakers. It was beautiful and grand, exactly what a royal ceremony should be. Queen Thessa entered first, walking down the long aisle toward the platform. The crowd rose and bowed. She looked magnificent in flowing robes that seemed to be made of liquid starlight. Then Princess Nala entered. Taman felt his breath catch. She wore a dress of pure white that glowed softly. Her silver hair was arranged in an elaborate style. She looked like something from a dream. She also looked nervous. Her eyes scanned the crowd, and Taman wondered if she was looking for him. If some part of her believed his warning, the queen and princess took their places on the platform. Advisor Krell stood beside them, along with other high officials. The Valerian psychic guards positioned themselves around the hall, but Taman could see they were outnumbered by the mercenaries hidden among the crowd. The ceremony proceeded. The queen spoke about tradition and duty, about the responsibility of leadership, about her pride in her daughter. Taman watched Krell's hand. The advisor wore several rings, and one of them looked different from the others. It had a small crystal that wasn't decorative. It was a trigger. Everything happened at once. The lights cut out completely. Emergency lighting didn't activate. In the darkness, Taman heard a high-pitched sound that made his teeth hurt. A psychic dampening field. The Valerian guard's telepathy was suddenly useless. Screaming started. Energy weapons fired, their blue light flashing in the darkness. But these weren't aimed at the crowd. They were aimed at the platform. At the queen and princess, Taman dropped from his hiding place. He fell 15 feet and landed hard, rolling to absorb the impact. Pain shot through his shoulder, but he pushed through it. He ran toward the platform, pulling out the weapons he had kept despite his orders to surrender them. A knife. A small projectile pistol that was ancient by galactic standards but would work when energy weapons failed. Bodies filled the aisles. Some were running for exits. Others were fighting. In the darkness and chaos, it was hard to tell friend from enemy. A Valerian guard lay on the ground near the platform, his throat cut. The mercenaries were executing the psychic guard systematically. Without their telepathy, the Valerians were helpless. Taman reached the platform. Princess Nala was on her knees, shielding her mother with her own body. 3 mercenaries were advancing on them. Advisor Krell watched from nearby, smiling. "Your Highness," Taman shouted. Nala's head turned, and even in the darkness he saw her eyes widen with recognition and hope. The first mercenary turned toward Taman and raised an energy weapon. Taman was faster. He fired his pistol twice. The old weapon made a sharp crack that was different from energy weapons. The mercenary fell. The second mercenary charged. Taman dropped his pistol and met the charge with his knife. The fight was brutal and quick. The mercenary was strong, but Taman had been trained for close combat. He found the weak points in the armor, drove his knife home, and moved on. The third mercenary was smarter. He grabbed Princess Nala and put a blade to her throat. "Stop or she dies," the mercenary said. Taman stopped. His mind raced through options. The distance was too far for him to cross before the mercenary could cut her throat. "Drop your weapon." Taman dropped his knife. Advisor Krell stepped forward, still smiling. The loyal human. How touching. You should have left when you had the chance. Let her go, Krell. This is between you and the queen. Oh, but the princess is part of the plan. The queen will die knowing she failed to protect her daughter. It's much more poetic that way. Queen Thessa was struggling to rise, wounded but alive. She looked at Taman with shock. "You were right. You tried to warn us." "Yes, Your Majesty. I'm sorry I couldn't do more." "Sorry?" Krell laughed. "You should be proud. You're going to die protecting her. Isn't that what humans want? Noble sacrifices?" Taman looked at Princess Nala. Her eyes were wide with fear, but when she met his gaze, he saw something else there. Trust. Faith that he would somehow save her. He wouldn't let her down. "You're right," Taman said to Krell. "Humans do like noble sacrifices, but we prefer smart tactics." He dove forward, not toward Nala, but toward Krell. The advisor hadn't expected that. He stumbled backward, and in that moment of distraction, the mercenary holding Nala hesitated. That was all the opening Taman needed. He grabbed his knife from the ground mid-roll and threw it in one fluid motion. The knife buried itself in the mercenary's shoulder. It wasn't a killing blow, but it made him release the princess. Nala dropped and rolled away, just as Taman had seen soldiers do countless times. Taman reached Krell and grabbed him, using the advisor as a shield against the other mercenaries in the hall. "Tell them to stand down. You can't win," Krell hissed. There are dozens of them. You're just one human. One human is all it takes. The emergency lights finally activated, flooding the hall with red light. Taman could see the full scope of the attack now. At least 20 mercenaries were fighting through the crowd. The Valerian guards were down or retreating, unable to use their powers. But something was changing. The remaining loyal guards were rallying, and human guards who had been scattered throughout the ship were arriving, drawn by the sounds of combat. Lieutenant Minho burst through a side entrance with 3 other humans. They saw Taman holding Krell and immediately understood. They opened fire on the mercenaries with their simple, reliable projectile weapons. The tide of battle shifted. Without telepathy to guide them, it came down to training and will, and humans had spent centuries perfecting both. Taman pushed Krell away and ran to Princess Nala. "Are you hurt?" "No, I'm okay." She grabbed his arm. "You came back. Even though they ordered you away, I made a promise. You're wounded." Taman looked down and saw blood spreading across his uniform. He had been cut during one of the fights. Maybe more than once. The adrenaline had kept him from feeling it. It's not that bad. But even as he said it, the world began to spin. He had lost more blood than he thought. "Taman!" The princess caught him as he fell. "Someone help him, please." Queen Thessa was there suddenly, her hands glowing with healing energy. "Hold on, human. You don't get to die after saving us." Taman tried to speak, but darkness was closing in. The last thing he saw was Princess Nala's face above him, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Don't leave me," she whispered. "Please don't leave me." He wanted to tell her he wouldn't, that he would always be there. But the darkness swallowed him before he could form the words. Part 6. The awakening Taman woke to soft blue light and the steady beep of medical equipment. His body felt heavy as if he had been sleeping for 1,000 years. When he tried to move, pain shot through his chest and arms. "Don't move yet." A gentle voice spoke in Korean. "You're still healing." He turned his head slowly and saw a human woman in a medical uniform. She had kind eyes and gray streaks in her black hair. "I'm Dr. Soman. You're in the medical bay. You've been unconscious for 4 days." 4 days. Taman tried to process that. "The princess. Is she? She's fine. Thanks to you." Dr. Soman checked one of the monitors. "You had 3 stab wounds, a fractured rib, severe blood loss, and a concussion. By all rights, you should be dead. But the queen herself used her healing abilities on you. That's unheard of. A Valerian queen doesn't heal humans. What happened after I fell? The coup failed completely. Once the human guards arrived, the mercenaries didn't stand a chance. Advisor Krell and his conspirators were arrested. Several were killed in the fighting." She smiled slightly. "You stopped an assassination and exposed a conspiracy that went all the way to the Galactic Council. You're kind of a hero." "Hero?" The word felt strange. He had just done what needed to be done. "Can I see the princess?" "She's been here every day. Right now she's meeting with investigators, but I expect she'll be back soon." Dr. Soman adjusted something on one of the machines. "The queen has also asked to see you when you wake up." As if summoned, the door opened and Queen Thessa entered. She looked different somehow, less cold, more human, ironically. "Dr. Soman, give us the room." The doctor bowed and left quickly. The queen approached Taman's bed and studied him for a long moment. "You're awake." "Good." "Yes, Your Majesty. When you met me for the first time, I asked you what you could offer that my psychic guards could not. Do you remember what you said?" "Yes, Your Majesty. I said I could see patterns they might miss. I could stand between danger and your daughter when mental powers weren't enough." "You were right." She sat down in the chair beside his bed, a gesture that seemed almost casual but was probably unprecedented. "My guards relied so completely on their telepathy that they never considered what would happen if it was taken away. You saw what they couldn't see because you couldn't rely on psychic powers. You had to use observation, instinct, and experience. I just did my job, Your Majesty." "No, you did far more than your job." She leaned forward. "You disobeyed direct orders. You were branded a criminal. You knew that even if you succeeded, you might be executed for insubordination. And you did it anyway. Why?" Taman thought about the question. How could he explain what he felt? What had driven him to risk everything? "Your Majesty, when I was young, I lost my family. I wasn't there to protect them. I promised myself I would never let that happen again. That I would always stand guard for those who needed me." He met her eyes. "The princess needed me. I couldn't walk away from that. Even if it cost me everything. The Queen was quiet for a moment. Then she did something completely unexpected. She reached out and placed her hand over his. You asked me once if I would order you to die for my daughter. I said yes, and you accepted without hesitation. But I understand now that you were never dying for an order. You were willing to die because you care. Because that's who you are. She squeezed his hand gently. Humans are remarkable. I see that now. I'm sorry it took nearly losing my daughter to understand. Thank you, Your Majesty. She stood. Rest now. Heal. When you're recovered, we have much to discuss about the future. She paused at the door. And, Taman? Thank you. For saving my daughter. For showing me what I was too blind to see. After she left, Taman lay in silence, processing everything. The world had shifted somehow. Something fundamental had changed. Hours later, the door opened again. Princess Nala entered, and when she saw he was awake, she ran to his bedside. You're awake. Thank the stars you're awake, Your Highness. You shouldn't be here. You need to rest. I need to rest? You nearly died. Tears filled her eyes. When you fell, I thought you were gone. I thought I'd never get to tell you. Tell me what? She sat in the chair her mother had used. That you were right. About everything. About the danger. About Krell. I didn't believe you because I let him manipulate me with his telepathy. I doubted you when I should have trusted you. You couldn't have known. But you knew. You saw what was happening, and I dismissed you. And then you came back anyway. Even after we sent you away. Even after we treated you like you were crazy. She took his hand carefully, avoiding the medical tubes. Why did you come back? Because you needed me. It's more than that. She searched his face. You care about me. Not as a princess. As a person. Taman felt his chest tighten. Yes, Your Highness. I do. When did it start? When did I stop being just an assignment to you? He thought about it. Maybe when you finally said my name. Or maybe it was before that. Maybe it was always there waiting for me to notice. She smiled through her tears. I was so cruel to you at first. I acted like you didn't exist. You were young. You had been taught that humans were beneath you. I didn't blame you for that. You should have. I blamed myself when I realized what I'd done. She wiped her eyes. My mother asked me who guards me, and I said my warrior. But you're more than that now. You're my friend. The first real friend I've ever had. I'm honored, Your Highness, and stop calling me that when we're alone. My name is Nala. I can't, you can. You've earned the right. She squeezed his hand. Stay with me, Taman. When you heal, stay with me. Not as my guard, as my advisor. My companion, my whatever you want to be. Just stay. As long as you need me, I'll be here. Over the following days, Taman slowly recovered. He learned more about what had happened during the coup attempt. Advisor Krell had been planning the attack for years, gathering mercenaries and bribing officials. He had wanted to kill the royal family and claim the throne for himself. The council sent investigators. They interviewed Taman for hours, asking about everything he had observed. His testimony helped them uncover other conspirators across the empire. Commander Jiho visited one afternoon. You disobeyed direct orders. Yes, sir. You made me look foolish in front of the Valerian command. I'm sorry, sir. Don't be. Jiho smiled. You did the right thing. The hard thing. That's what good soldiers do. He handed Taman a data pad. Your court-martial has been cancelled. Instead, you're being promoted. And you're being reassigned. Reassigned where, sir? Wherever Princess Nala goes, apparently. She requested you personally, and the Queen approved it. You're officially her personal guard and advisor now, highest security clearance, full diplomatic status. Jiho shook his head in amazement. A human with full diplomatic status in the Valerian Empire. That's never happened before. After Jiho left, Taman stared at the datapad. His life had changed completely. A month ago, he was just another guard. Now he was something else entirely. But what exactly? He wasn't sure yet. That evening, Princess Nala visited again. She had become a regular presence, spending hours in his room talking about everything and nothing. I spoke to Ambassador Yuna today, she said. She told me more about Earth, about human history, about the memorial with all the names. It's an important place. I want to see it someday. I want to understand where you come from, who you are. She looked at him seriously. I want to know everything about humanity. The good and the bad. No more prejudice. No more assumptions. That will take time, and I have time. We have time. She smiled. Together. Taman felt something warm in his chest. Hope, maybe, or something even deeper. Yes, he said. Together. Part 7. The New Guard 6. Months passed like water flowing over stones, changing everything slowly but surely. The palace ship looked the same, but everything else had transformed. Human guards now walked the corridors with respect in the eyes of those they passed. The Valerian psychic guards trained alongside them, learning tactics that didn't rely on telepathy. Ambassador Yuna had been promoted to chief liaison between humanity and the Valerian Empire, and Taman stood beside Princess Nala as she prepared to address the Galactic Council. "Are you nervous?" he asked quietly as they waited in the preparation room, terrified. She adjusted her formal robes, which blended Valerian tradition with human design elements, a symbol of the new alliance. "This is the biggest speech of my life. You'll do fine. You've prepared for months. I'm not worried about the words. I'm worried about whether they'll listen." She turned to face him. "I'm proposing full integration of human culture into Valerian society. Equal representation on the council. Shared military command. Some of the older members think I'm crazy. Some of the older members thought your mother was crazy for letting a human guard you. And look how that turned out." She smiled. "You saved our lives and changed an empire. No pressure on this speech, right?" Taman laughed. He had been doing that more often lately. Laughing, feeling light, being human instead of just being a soldier. The door opened and Queen Thessa entered. She wore ceremonial armor that gleamed like starlight. She had addressed the council first, preparing them for her daughter's proposal. "They're ready for you," the queen said. Then she looked at Taman. "You'll stand with her?" "Always, Your Majesty." "Good." She placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Be strong, be honest. They need to hear this even if they don't want to." Princess Nala nodded, took a deep breath, and walked toward the council chamber. Taman followed 2 steps behind and 1 step to her right, his proper position. But it felt different now. He wasn't just a guard. He was a friend, a companion, part of something larger than himself. The council chamber was massive, a sphere filled with platforms where representatives from hundreds of species gathered. Holographic displays showed Nala's face to everyone present. Thousands of eyes watched her as she approached the speaking platform. She began to speak, and Taman listened with pride. "Members of the Galactic Council, 6 months ago my mother nearly died. I nearly died. Our entire royal family was almost destroyed by a conspiracy that we should have seen coming but didn't. We failed because we relied too heavily on our strengths and ignored our weaknesses." She paused, letting that sink in. "We Valerians are telepaths. We are powerful, we are advanced, but on the night of the attack, when psychic dampening fields were activated, we became helpless. Our guards fell. Our defenses crumbled. We would have died if not for one human who saw what we could not see." She gestured to Taman, and every eye in the chamber turned to him. He kept his expression neutral, but inside he felt uncomfortable with the attention. This human disobeyed orders to save us. He risked everything because he understood something we had forgotten. Technology fails. Powers can be neutralized. But determination, loyalty, and courage, these things are harder to defeat. "These are the strengths of humanity." A murmur ran through the chamber. Some species nodded. Others looked skeptical. For too long we have viewed humans as primitive warriors. Useful for fighting but not for thinking. Strong but not wise. We were wrong. Her voice grew stronger. Humans survived on a dangerous world by learning to protect each other. They endured countless wars by never giving up. They reached for the stars despite having less advanced technology than most of us. They did all this through sheer determination and the strength of their bonds. She looked directly at the elder representatives who had opposed her proposal. "I am asking this council to grant humanity full membership, not as junior partners, not as soldiers who follow our orders, as equals, because they have proven they deserve nothing less." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some species applauded, others argued loudly. The noise grew until the council speaker called for order. "Princess Nala raises interesting points," an elder from the Korthan collective said. His species was ancient, one of the founding members of the council. But equal membership requires equal contribution. What do humans offer beyond military service? Ambassador Yuna stood from her seat. "May I address the council?" "Speak, Ambassador." Yuna walked to the central platform. Humans offer perspective. We see problems differently because we don't have telepathy or advanced technology to rely on. We solve issues through creativity, determination, and cooperation. We also offer loyalty. When humans commit to an alliance, we don't break it easily. We stand by our friends even when it's hard. Another representative spoke up, this one from a species Taman didn't recognize. The Valerians were attacked because they grew complacent. How do we know humans won't do the same? You don't, Taman said. Everyone turned to look at him in surprise. He hadn't meant to speak, but the words came out anyway. Princess Nala smiled. My advisor has something to say. The council will listen. Taman stepped forward, feeling completely out of place but knowing he needed to speak. Every species can grow complacent. Every society can become weak if it relies too much on its strengths. Humans are not special because we're immune to that. We're useful because we've made every mistake you can imagine and learned from them. We've destroyed ourselves and rebuilt. We've fallen and gotten back up. That experience, that history of failure and recovery, that's what we offer. He looked around the chamber at the hundreds of species gathered there. You don't need to trust that humans will always be perfect. You need to trust that we'll stand beside you when things go wrong, because that's what we do. That's what we've always done. Silence filled the chamber. Then Queen Thessa stood. The human speaks truth. My daughter nearly died, and a human saved her by refusing to give up. That is the strength we need in our alliance, not perfection but persistence. She looked at the elder representatives. I vote to grant humanity full council membership. Let them stand beside us as equals. One by one, other species began to voice their support. Not all of them. Some remained opposed, but enough voted yes that the measure passed. Humanity had just become a full member of the Galactic Council. The chamber erupted in celebration and protest in equal measure. Ambassador Yuna had tears streaming down her face. Commander Jiho, watching from the visitors' gallery, saluted Taman with pride. Princess Nala turned to Taman as they left the chamber. We did it. You did it. That was all you. No, it was us, together. She took his hand, not caring who saw. None of this would have happened without you. Later that evening, there was a celebration in the palace ship's grand hall, the same hall where the attack had happened. It had been rebuilt, but Taman could still see the places where people had died, where he had fought, where everything had changed. You're thinking about that night, Princess Nala said, appearing beside him. Always. I don't think I'll ever stop. Good, we shouldn't forget. She stood beside him in comfortable silence. I have something to tell you. What? My mother is stepping down. Not immediately, but soon. She wants to travel to see the galaxy she helped protect, and she wants me to take her place. Taman felt his breath catch. You'll be queen. Yes, and I'll need advisors I can trust. People who will tell me the truth even when it's hard. She looked at him. Will you stay with me? Help me rule? I'm just a soldier. You're more than that. You always have been. You see things others miss. You speak truth when others stay silent. You stand firm when everything falls apart. She smiled. Those are the qualities a queen needs beside her. Taman thought about his journey. From a boy who lost his family to a soldier fighting wars to a guard protecting a princess. And now somehow an advisor to a future queen. Then I'll stay. As long as you need me. Forever might not be long enough. They stood together, watching the celebration. Human and Valerian, guard and princess, old prejudices and new understanding. Ambassador Yuna approached with Commander Jiho. We wanted to thank you both. What happened here today will echo through the galaxy for generations. It's just the beginning, Princess Nala said. There's so much more work to do. So many old prejudices to overcome. So many new alliances to build. But we'll face it together, Yuna said. Human and Valerian, side by side. As the celebration continued around them, Taman felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Purpose. Home. He had been asked once to guard a princess. He had done that and so much more. He had changed an empire's heart. He had shown that humans were more than primitive warriors. He had proven that sometimes the greatest strength wasn't power or technology or telepathy. Sometimes it was just the willingness to stand guard, to protect, to care enough to sacrifice everything. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy, and it was enough. Princess Nala leaned close and whispered, Did you ever think it would come to this? I just wanted to keep you safe. The rest, that was all you. No, it was us. It's always been us, she smiled, and it will continue to be us. When I'm queen, you'll help me lead. Not as a guard, as my partner in all this. Then I'll guard you through that too. You're going to guard a queen,